Welcome to Beyond the Walls, a podcast where faith doesn't stop on Sunday morning. Together we'll explore what it looks like to take your faith to where you live, where you work, and where you do everyday life. I'm Jared Kendall, joined by Cameron Jinks and Jordan Sheehy. Come with us as we discuss what it looks like to have real faith beyond the walls.
What's going on, podcast listeners? This is Jordan.
This is Cameron.
And this is Jared. Man, welcome back to another missions emphasis on Beyond the Walls. We're back in the studio again.
Let's go.
I'm excited to hear about another mission trip that happened this summer. And so we have one of our good best friends, as Forrest would say.
Introduce yourself. Go ahead.
So my name is Kimily Waldron, and I'm proud to be known as a good best friend.
Ooh, good best friend.
There we go. Good best friend.
Every time I answer the phone for Kimily, one of us will say, "Hey, friend," and it just brightens my day just a little bit more.
That's exactly right.
She usually goes, Jordan, why are you calling?
Okay, that might be true.
Kimily, tell us about where you went and what you did.
So I have been very blessed to be able to travel a lot of different places, and one of them was this summer. We took 8 college students and 3 of their directors and went to South Asia for 16 days.
Oh, wow.
That's a long
It's a
time.
long trip.
It is.
What all were you guys doing while you were there?
Well, honestly, we were there for a cultural exchange. We were really going into this area to just understand the culture. And we found out a lot of things. I was so proud of the college students because they were very curious. And to me, when we're curious, we ask good questions and we start to open doors to build relationships. And so that was primarily what we were doing, was building relationships. The area that we went to is very Muslim. Christianity is against their, it's against the law. You cannot profess your belief, although a lot of Westerners are believers, so that gives a small percentage of people over there a door, but it is a very Muslim culture. And so I came back and told a lot of people this was probably one of the harder trips I've ever been on, because you can't paint a house or see tangible fruit because you're not being able to share about Jesus. And so to me, there was a frustration I had to confess of just, Lord, this is hard. Why would you bring me here? It's a beautiful place, but it's very hard. So I really felt like it was just to build relationships and start to let that culture see that all Americans are not the same, that we love one another, that we're kind and we're respectful. And so that really won a lot of them over, but just seeing we were respectful of their culture.
Yeah, just to add to that, so what Kimily was doing was kind of an on-ramp for what would be hopefully future ministry to come
Absolutely.
that direction of just seeing what it's like there, how do they get their feet planted in there, which is often what happens in most mission areas, but when we have the opportunity to usually go, it's someone's already done that before us, but Kimily and the crew was obviously laying the ground for other teams to come in the future.
Jordan, we were the first team that an area had ever had in their...
Wild.
It was crazy that they'd never had. So we were kind of a novelty. We were playing football or soccer with the children, and families would just come up and stare at us. They would engage us and have a little bit of conversation, but you could tell there was a little bit of nervousness knowing that we were Americans. Just a simple story I shared with Cam the other day was we had this little girl come up to me the first day, and we were just talking and engaging about, her home life and what was happening in her world. And the second day she comes up to me and she goes, "You're from America?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, so you're a Christian?" And I said, "That's interesting." I said, "But not all Americans are Christian," because I just wanted to keep it broad and light with her because I could tell this was coming from the parents. A little 8-year-old typically wouldn't blurt out that question to me. And so we kept our conversation going. We had a great time. The next day she comes and she goes, "Are you a Christian?" And I said, Yes, I am. And I could just see her countenance drop a little bit like, oh, we're not supposed to be engaging with people of this belief system. And so the third day, she did not come back.
Yeah.
And that just broke my heart because I felt like I'm sure that was the parents just trying to, in their world, protect that child from hearing something other than what she's been taught.
Yeah.
So they are faithful. I mean, they get the call to prayer 5 times a day, and sometimes I think, what if believers were as
Interesting.
It just broke my heart because what if we were as convicted and devout to pray?
As you say that, though, I think what's interesting is Christianity is being talked about in those homes.
Yes.
Even though you guys may not have been able to publicly declare that on the street corner or in a crusade fashion or anything like that. But obviously there's conversations going on in families. Right. So those seeds are there. And at some point, mom and dad are going to have to tell their child why they shouldn't follow that. And so, again, I think it's just happening in other ways.
Yes. And I believe the Lord blesses that. Although, like I said, it was just not as tangible that I could see it.
Yeah.
I knew he was working, and our students were so effective of just having good conversations with people, and they weren't pushing Christianity, but they were pushing, you could tell, God's love.
Yeah.
What do you feel like were some of the more tangible things you could say you guys were able to do while you were there?
Well, we just had to build relationships because here we were having a cultural exchange. So I learned to cook with tuna in ways I never thought I could cook with tuna because that's their main means. So we'd go to cooking class. And so that just opened a door for us. Like I said, you just can't walk out on the corner or you just can't say, y'all come. We had to find ways to engage in their culture. And so to me, I loved it. And we had a great time. The young people on this one particular place we were at were very engaged. The boys played soccer, football, and the girls played this thing they called handball that looked like a form of basketball and soccer combined. But, in that culture, women stay with women, men stay with men. And so we were respectful of that. And but it was just a way for us they could see, like, our students were running and having fun and just, being silly with the children. And so they loved that. And so I think that's what really kind of drew us in, is because it was very engaging just to hang out with them. And even some of our tour guides, and every time I got into a taxi driver and they say, "Where are you from?" and I'd say, "America," and the first words out of normally it was men, would say, "Oh, Trump." And I said, we just want to learn about your culture and let people know that Americans love one another and want to love, our friends here in this country. And so it's always interesting to me, Jordan, to see how other cultures immediately think of us.
Yeah.
And so for us to kind of shift that paradigm, I think is a good thing.
This is so off topic. As the World Cup's come to the United States for soccer, we've had a lot of cultures come over here recently, and they actually have communicated like what they've been taught about America is not true, and they're not the people that they thought we were. And so just interesting to hear what different regions of the world think about the United States. You mentioned that it was primarily a Muslim culture. Are there any other religions that are being practiced in that area?
Because it's in the southern part of Asia, Hinduism is kind of big, but where we were at was strictly Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the women were, wearing the appropriate dress, and it was very evident.
Was it for cultural appropriation? Like, were you guys wearing headdresses as well?
No, we did not. Because they knew we were Westerners, they did not expect that of us.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
But we were, and this is why I was proud of the college kids, is we were very modestly dressed. I mean, we wore, jeans or pants or long shorts and T-shirts that, were appropriate, nothing type of risque or, that they would question. And so that they took notice of that, which I thought was very interesting.
For protection reasons, we don't want to mention too many names, but you guys are partnering with someone that's there, correct?
Yes.
And they'll be there long term?
Yes, we hope so.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And, they're under the threat, just like so many of our other friends around the world, that if they get called out, they get sent home. The believers that are left in the country, they go to prison.
Yeah.
So, we're always trying to be protective, not of just our friends, but our friends that are believers in these other countries.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded to some of the food that you were eating there. You're going culture-wise. So
Tuna.
like fried tuna, boiled tuna, tuna kebabs, that type of stuff? Or
Yes, and ground tuna, Jared. They would take the fish and smoke it or boil it, however they did, and then grind it up, and so it would be added into about every dish we had.
Wow.
Yeah.
In that culture, were you invited into any homes or anything like that for hospitality? Or
to me, one of the greatest honors that we did get to experience is some of the elders in the area asked to meet with us, and man, I'm so glad you.
When you say elders, you mean like Muslim elders or like just older people?
Older people of that area that had been there a long time. It's embarrassing to me because I'm going to be 65 and I think they were 68, but they looked 108.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because of the sun, it's close to the equator. They're just very hardened looking. Yeah. So we sat down, our students sat down with this couple as they kind of explained what it was like to live in this area. One of our students said, or I guess they said, do you have any questions? And one of our students said, what advice would you give young people? What would you tell us in the wisdom that you've had all these years? And it was a husband and wife, and the husband said, I would encourage you to only marry one time. In their culture, divorce is kind of prevalent.
Really?
And so for him to say, only marry one time, we were all like, yeah, that's great. That's great advice. Thank you for telling us. But it was so interesting that of all the things he could have directed them to, he said, only marry one time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I was very, very impressed. Like I said, the students were curious, asked really good questions, and but they showed us, different fruits, and I had fresh coconut milk, which is not like what you have at the coffee shop. So anyway, it was just such a good experience to see the resources that they use for their food and drinks and everything is just all self-contained. You know what I mean? That they survive on what they have.
While we're talking about Muslim culture and a little bit of family stuff, this is off topic a little bit, but one of the fastest growing religions right now in the world is Muslim religion. Mm-hmm. And the stats are saying that the reason that has less to do with conversion rate and more to do with birth rate. And the Muslims are just really good at growing families physically, which I actually wonder if is that a challenge to the American church, that as our American culture has created more of an idea of waiting longer and longer to have kids, therefore the decreasing rate of Christians in America continues to grow, of taking back maybe the call of being fruitful and multiply would have been maybe part of the way in which the early church of Jesus grew, and then obviously still should be growing today. So just an interesting thought.
Yeah. So you're an advocate for growing the church.
Oh, yeah. I think we should all have more kids. Yeah.
That's a whole other podcast.
I think children, this is, again, off topic. Children, a lot of times in America, are seen more of a burden than a blessing. Yeah. And as you read Scripture, you see over and over that children are nothing but a blessing. And though they might come with a lot of things that make life harder or more difficult, man, good things come in difficult seasons. And so hear that loud and clear, listener. Go have another kid.
We had talked about this a couple days ago when we were talking about having you on to speak about your trip. Like, I think that what you were saying, it's like unlike any mission trip that probably you have been on, or even a lot of us. Like, I've been overseas, but more in like Catholicism would be like a very large, prominent religion that was practiced. And so we'd have freedom to go door to door and proclaim the gospel and teach and like put on events for kids to come in. We'd share the gospel with them or provide services or whatever that would look like. But you still see kind of that interesting, like, we'd have a whole lot of conversations of the same thing of like even family ties within even that, belief from there. It's like, oh, my grandparents, like, I've always just been this, so this is what this is. And we tell students all the time, like, your faith is your own, sometimes. And like, not saying that whatever your parents raise you in is horrible and bad and just to discredit it. But we're seeing a lot of students like own their faith for themselves and really like pour into themselves for what they believe and convictions, that they would have. But even, we try and do this with every podcast of like, we experience all these things and we have all these things, but what is something that either you have taken away, or maybe a charge to the church, or even college students as you're moving out of this season and into the next, like something that you've learned from this that you can encourage others to do with a mission mindset, I guess?
Okay, well, I had a lot of different thoughts going on that statement, but to live a life on mission, Cam, to me is so important. Whether I've been able to go to different countries and live this out on college campuses, but no matter where we're at, our job and our family, we're living a life on mission. And those kids are watching what we say and do, and are we authentic in our faith is one of the things that kind of stands out to me. But, in the culture that we were serving in, you said that earlier, Jordan, about the kids. The religion ties of Islam is so tight that a young person, if they choose to follow Christ, if they choose to step out of that culture, that religion, they're disowned.
Yeah.
I mean, so the cost, we consider the cost, the Bible says, of following Christ. We consider the cost, and it wasn't that hard for me to become a believer, but I know brothers and sisters overseas, when they have to walk away from their physical families, that's tough. I have one of the ladies that I got to have a cooking class with. She's a believer. She was put in jail for several years. She was beaten. She finally got to come back to her family. Her high school daughter is really struggling with her faith in Christianity, because all of her friends are Muslim and they do not agree with what she's practicing at home.
Yeah.
And so I saw that lived out in that one afternoon between this mother and daughter, and I thought, man, to see a woman who suffered for her faith and didn't walk away. She is a believer in Jesus. And the daughter is, like I said, a high school student. That the mom specifically, she goes, "Can you do a Bible study on why Jesus is really God's son?" So I'm like, okay, kids, let's all turn our Bibles to John, and here we go. And so, I just thought the love that mother has for her daughter to, pray that she doesn't get sucked back in. We did a lot of prayer walking throughout these communities. And Jordan, I just felt over and over again the Lord saying, let's release these chains of Islam, because it was so oppressive and dark. Yes. And so that's one of those, I just feel like as we're on mission, wherever the Lord sends us, sometimes it's verbal, sometimes it's praying and asking God to just do miracles in people's lives. Sometimes he's using us to do these miracles. But I'm just like, man, there's a lot of lost people.
Kimily, you've brought to mind a couple of things today as you've shared with us about your trip. Number one, all mission trips are not the same. Romans 1:16 talks about, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. That does not always mean standing on a street corner and screaming Jesus at people. Right. Sometimes it's going and being a part of their culture and showing them what Christ is without even saying his name at times. And it also reminds me today that we need to be praying for our brothers and sisters around the globe who cannot freely speak about Christ and who still need to hear. You said in the very beginning, you all were one of the first groups ever to this place to be there. I think it's so significant that we remember that not everybody has heard the gospel yet. And so we still need to be on mission and taking our faith outside the walls of the church. And so that's our goal with this podcast. And as you hear more from different people who have been on mission this summer and throughout the year, we hope that the Lord places a calling in your life, not just to be on missions overseas, but to be on mission right here in the 918. And we push that every week. We say we have a mission statement every single week. And so that mission here in the 918 for us is to love God, love people, and make disciples.
See you later.
See ya.